Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another segment of Nonprofits. And what we want to talk about is the war on woke. Is there an actual war on woke? Are people pulling out the guns? I don't know, but Cynthia is going to let us know. It's going to fill us in on it. So what do you got for us, Cynthia?
Well, Kelly, today we're diving into the war on wokeness, which is a term that has been twisted into a political weapon in recent years. In 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis rallied the right against what he called the woke mob. Yeah, that's what he called it, the woke mob, turning a fight for social justice into a culture war. But what's really behind this anti-woke movement, in today's episode, we'll explore how a blend of white grievance and fear-mongering has led this crusade against progress, and how it's part of a long, cynical effort to maintain racial and social hierarchies in America. This story is actually from The Guardian by Michael Harriot, and it was published on December 21st, 2022.
Well, thank you very much. And do you think that this whole thing is just like the creation of a straw man, and why?
This is a straw man, and there's no there there. The people who have been asked about come out against woke and all that, and they start asking some questions of them like, well, what do you think woke is? And they can't answer it. And they fumble, and then they just sort of go quiet because they don't even know what they're against. But the straw man is that this was created just another boogeyman, for that the right needs to keep people excited, keep people afraid. And this is all another boogeyman to scare the kids, against another non-existent threat to their hegemony, and attempt to co-opt and give a negative narrative to a term used on to describe people who are aware and of more, not liberal per se, but of the compassionate, empathetic people who are aware of many flaws in our current system and systematic biases and inequities. That's what woke meant. You're aware of the groups of people who are discriminated against in our society and systemically and for a long time. That's what woke means. They've turned it around to mean some sort of amorphous liberal boogeyman that is destroying the country. And I've never been able to get anybody who's told me that, and they do a lot here in Florida, that to explain to me exactly how they're doing that. So yeah, it's not a thing.
I was thinking if you don't think that this is just a made up straw man, go ask some woke people what their agenda is, and then have them explain to you what they think is wrong, and then go watch some of the many YouTube creators that are out in the parking lot at far right political rallies and listen to what the people attending there have to say about the woke agenda, and listen to them explaining what they think woke means. And they're two completely different things. Whenever these movements raise their heads in the USA, are they often countered, Cynthia? Is there usually some pushback?
Well, before I answer that question, Kelly, I would like to say, hello, my name is Cynthia, and I am the woke boogeyman. So when it comes to this piece, right, it actually illustrates how the anti-woke movement has become a means to the right to rebrand bigotry and also patriotism, and drawing upon historical fears and resentment. By promoting legislation like the Stop Woke Act, like Ron DeSantis actually introduced, and others aim to prevent educational institutions from even discussing topics that might provoke discomfort, essentially whitewashes history and stifling critical conversations about race and inequality. And I also like to point out that the article contextualized the anti-woke movement within a larger historical narrative, and actually as a resistance to progress. So every significant advancement in civil rights has been met with an equal and opposite backlash, highlighting a cynical pattern in American history. Ultimately, the war against wokeness is portrayed as an effort to maintain an unjust status quo, where acknowledgement of systemic racism and inequality is framed as un-American. And this manipulation of language and meaning serves to distract from real issues at hand, reinforcing existence to power dynamics rather than challenging them. We can even point out to a specific time period in American history. We had a historic election in 2008. The first Black man was actually made president in the United States. And then 8 years later, we got what we got. That's what I'm going to say. Oftentimes, that's a prime example of white backlash against particular woke, we're using those air quotes again, right? Progress when it comes to who we even will accept as the leader of the country, like at the highest land that is actually going to lead us and be the spokesperson for the United States. And that's always been the case. Even if you look historically back to the Civil Rights Movement, and you had legislation after legislation, like you had the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you had the Fair Housing Act of 1968, you had the Voter Rights Act of 1965. Then right after that, who did we get? Southern Strategy, Richard Nixon, and then right after that, the war on drugs. Thank you, you damn anti-woke people. If I believed in hell, you can go there. That's all I got to say about that. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, there does seem
Cynthia's on fire tonight.
Yeah, she sure is. You know what? Too, I was thinking we've been doing a lot of air quotes this week. John, what do you, Cynthia? A lot of this is insulting, and some of it's just basic criticism. Can you help us define the difference between the two? And can some criticism be insulting?
Okay.
Oh, that was for Cindy. Sorry, not Cynthia.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was going to answer that, but I'm going to step back and let Cindy, my other Cindy, because
that was
I'm
my
called
bad.
Cindy too. It's okay. I'm called Cindy too, but not on this program. So Cindy, go ahead.
There is much to say about how this woke label has been used, and I think Cynthia and Jonathan have done a very good job at trying this. So I wanted to talk about something that's been bothering me for roughly 3 months, mostly because, with all the debates on TV, every time you see a right-wing figure invited on a less far-right TV channel, there's always this shouting match about who is responsible for political violence, and each camp accuses the other, and that pisses me off because that's pretty much like both siding the issue, which is not true in this case, because there is a difference between an insult and a characterization. Like, an insult is meant to shut down a discussion, to demean a person, to it's not an argument, it's not a position, it's just an attack to the person, so that the person is they can answer because they get angry, or it's just to attack their character, or it does nothing to the discussion. Whereas when you say that a special someone, for example, is a fascist, it's not an insult. It's fascism has a very specific definition, very specific meaning, and some people fit that meaning. And so when we call them fascist, it's not an insult. It's just like saying that Cynthia has black hair. It's like saying that when Trump was president, he lied like 21,000 times, around 16 times a day or 20 times a day, something like that on average. And so
I think it was over 30,000, to be honest with you, Cindy.
I heard like 34,000 something. Yeah, 34,500 and something, or something like that.
It was an average of 21 per day. If you can imagine that. But so if you say that he's a liar, it's not an attack. It's just an observation based on facts.
Yeah.
And so that's something I would like the people on TV to do a much better job at dealing with, because every time they have a right-winger saying that, oh yeah, look at all those people calling Trump fascist and now he's being shot at. Well, we don't insult him when we say that he's a fascist. We just qualify his behavior. And so we need to teach the difference to people, because this difference is very, very important, because it means that on one side, you have people who only say insult because they don't know what the position of the other side is, or because they themselves have no position to hold on. And on the other side, you have people who base their opinions on facts, and the two are not on the same equal footing. One has value and the other doesn't. And until we make that clear every time it happens on TV, they will keep both citing the issues, and people will still be on the fence because, I don't know if Trump is really much worse than the other side, or this person is much better than the other one. I'm not really sure. They're all insulting each other. No, they're not. We need to learn the difference.
Yeah, and I just want to just piggyback on that, because I think that the larger issue that we're dealing with specifically in the United States, and to be honest, I think that this is something that we have seen copied in different regimes over the world, is that we're trying to obfuscate the issue of when we are seeing certain people in leadership and how they are presenting themselves, and saying that, hey, to your point, Cindy, this person is acting like this. And then it's then being said that we are insulting them because we happen to be of a different mindset. And as you mentioned that, yes, this is just an observation, but I don't necessarily think that oftentimes when people are using the terms like fascism, socialism, Marxism, communism, any type of ism, even dictatorships, that they even know what the hell that means. They really don't. And so if other people are actually in front of them that are presenting themselves in a particular way, they're going to think that because it's touted that this is the right way to be, that's supposed to be the right way to be. And if there's going to be a backlash against it, they're going to be like, oh, well, other people are being violent against us because we're thinking this particular way and we're being persecuted. And it even reminds me of the persecution complex that we often have, different people who happen to be Christian possess. They feel like a lot of times, especially in the United States, that because there is a person with a difference of opinion or a difference of thought that happens not to be Christian, that you are attacking me because I think a certain way. And it's no, boo-boo, I'm not attacking you. What I'm looking at is your particular idea, and I'm taking it apart because this is the issue with it. I'm not saying anything particularly against you as a person, but ideas, thoughts, positions should be challenged. They should be challenged. And if you are pointing out the fallacy, the inconsistency, or even the hypocrisy in a person's position, they should be challenged and told about that. And it's very frustrating that oftentimes we are pushed against when we are pointing out why you who belong to the anti-woke movement we have issue with you. And a lot of times, even if we talked about in previous segments in this particular this particular week of episodes where people happen to think a certain way or to lend themselves a certain way, and then they're being talked to about what they're thinking about, then all of a sudden they're putting up the defense system. No, if you want to be able to progress any type of society, we have to be able to employ critical thought, and we also have to be able to have nuanced conversations so we can challenge ideas that happen to be harmful. Because a lot of times, there's not always just people who just happen to have issues with you and they want to be violent against you. Sometimes you can cause that issue yourself when you are speaking and saying certain things, and when you are propagating certain ideas that could be harmful.
Yeah, because truth doesn't fear inquiry.
Right. Exactly.
Cindy, how do you think history is going to look back on us?
Well, I don't like going on that terrain, but we don't need to go to history. The world is looking at the US right now, and it's not with kind eyes, as much as you here tonight, and most of the people who are watching the ACA shows will say you don't like what's going on on and you don't understand that this election can be so close, the entire world it's even worse for us. Because I understand the history and everything that led to the current situation, but most people don't, and they don't understand how is that possible that the same mechanisms that we saw in Germany in 37, 38, 39 are happening in front of our eyes, and everyone is screaming that this is happening, and it's still happening. It's weird and it's harrowing. It's unnerving. It's the rest of the world is really not happy about the U.S. right now.
And I just want to even piggyback on that, Kelly, if I can.
Sure.
If I want to implore the Bible, because why not? We are a secular show, because that's how this works. The Bible says that there is no new thing under the sun. And we have seen an issue when it comes to other regimes that have come to power and have fallen out of power that happen to be authoritarian, as Cindy pointed out, had to be dictatorial, as Cindy has pointed out. And we have seen this in history over and over and over again. And unfortunately, it has caused an issue and dare I say, a demise in society, in their societies. And I think that one of the things that we have to understand that are here in the United States is that the experiment that has been started over 250 years ago is a good experiment. Actually setting up a representative republic that's based on democracy in order for the people to have a voice in how they're being governed is a wonderful thing. But unfortunately, we have had on more than one occasion those who happen to bend a certain way come to power to bend our society a certain way. And a lot of times that, since the United States is a leader, is an industrial leader, and has been for a very long time, we are seeing even in other countries and other nations leadership that's bending that way as well. And I agree with Cindy that I don't necessarily think that history will look so kindly on the time that we're in right now. But what I'm hoping for, if I can as an atheist, that there are going to be other people who happen to see the things that they are seeing and not take it and actually rise up and be able to become the leaders of tomorrow, so that anti-woke will go to sleep and woke will be the way of life.
Well spoken. I just hope that history doesn't say of us that we stood by when fascism took over. Cindy, you had something you wanted to say real quick?
Yeah, I hate when I hear what Cynthia just said, that the U.S. democracy is an experiment. It has nothing about an experiment. An experiment is supposed, at some point, you're supposed to review the result and make changes in the equation of the on the result. And that is not baked into the system.
We did make constitutional amendments.
Yeah, and maybe I just need to amend what I have said.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did? Okay, there. The starting of our nation was an experiment. Okay, as far as we have never seen in this particular way a representative government that was elected by the people the way that the United States was set up. Okay,
it was a new thing when it was done.
It was a new thing when it was done. Now, yeah, so so that's what I was saying is that this experiment that was started 250 plus years ago, that's how it started. But yes, I agree. Now we should be able to review the results, because we had so much time that, we have all this data in front of us that we should be able to take our experiment and then come up with some type of results so that we can come with a theory. And I think that the most pragmatic theory that we can actually come up with when it comes with the representative government is that when we actually electing people who have the best interests of the people at heart, the country will do well. And it also can be a guiding post for other nations who may not necessarily lean to our way of government. But unfortunately, the reverse can happen as well, right? Or the adverse can happen as well. If you are putting people who happen to be in leadership that have a more authoritarian, more anti-woke, more dictatorial narrative that happens to be what leads them, unfortunately, it could be a demise of our nation as well.
Yes. All right. Well, we are way over time. So I'm going to definitely end the segment right now. So I do want to thank everybody who stuck through us with the extra long segment of the nonprofits.
Okay.
And if you didn't know, there is
gone.
a 24/7 AXP feed on YouTube, and you can watch old reruns of AXP. It's a lot of fun, and there's a really cool group of people that hang out in the chat room there.
I'm
So
here,
if you get
but
a
I'm
chance,
not.
check it out. And if you'd like to hear more of the nonprofits, just click this link below.